Hello everybody, Christian from Treasure Town here, and today we're going to be speaking about the 1957 wheat penny. Now, most of these are just going to be worth a few cents because there are a lot of them that were made. It's not a particularly rare date, but you can look closely and see if there are any varieties, which are rarer versions that collectors pay a little bit more for. There's also potential for errors, which can have some big upside, and then there's lastly some conditional rarities. Well, that's not quite as relevant. I'll still go over it along with a basic history of this coin. So let's get right into the video. So let's start discussing the 1957 Lincoln Wheat Cent. It's the second to last year of the Wheat Cent series, and a fair amount were produced. You can pause this to learn some of the general series overview, but I do want to sort of move on quickly to the main, the 1957, focus on that date. Conditional rarity, again, not something I spend too much time on, but if it's virtually flawless and has unbelievable luster, this is what I would, when you should start grading these if you think it's got a shot at being really a Mint State 66 plus or better, because after all the time and effort, Mint State 66 coin is gonna, you might make like 10 or 15 bucks, and these are PCGS graded, so a raw Mint State 65 that hasn't been graded is gonna be worth much less than $15. But if you submit it, it would sort of lose value, or you'd be losing because of the submission fee unless it's a really good bulk deal. For the proofs, again, don't spend too much time on these, but you could find a cameo or deep cameo. You want to be looking for contrast on a lot of the older proof sets. There's not tons of them out there, and people really like those contrasts between the fields and the main devices. So in this case, Lincoln's bust. Look for sharpness on the wheat ears as well, and you can see the big variation in terms of what a cameo or deep cameo sells for. So that's an area you can have expertise in and do well with. But in terms of the varieties, you want to look for a bunch of different things. So under the B in Liberty, you can find ones with this sort of little bar underneath the B. It's like a second letter there, and that's where the doubling is. It's pretty minor. Now these values are for ungraded coins, so it might be 10, 12 bucks in Mint State 65 as opposed to like $1 for a raw 1957 Mint State 65 that hasn't been graded. So that's a good one to search for. There's also an extreme extra thickness, really nice, all through the numbers in the date in 1957, the digits, and then the distortion also extends to the Liberty, where you see sort of a northwestern distortion. These are normally straight, but in this case they're both thicker, but also sort of have this curved outward pull on both the bottom and the top of the letter. This one's also attributable and can be put in at ANAX. It's got the Wexler and the Kaneka. Then in terms of this next one, it's a really minor but doubled eyelid where you see a little bit of a spread sort of to the southeast of the main eyelid. Occurs on a lot of the different wheat pennies, but there's no harm in checking for it, and especially if you sort of like hunting for them. I would definitely, if I found one of these, put to the side, and it's sort of a neat double die to look for. Not as popular as some of the other ones. And then there is this one, which is also kind of well known. Some spreads sort of to the right in the R and the T in Liberty. Same thing, you can see it a little bit in the lettering in G and O, but stronger values there. And then in terms of the double die reverses, here there's a little bit of a spread you can see in the sort of bottom of the U, tips of the L. Same thing in the pluribus, in the later parts of the letters, but the values aren't crazy on it. Still something I would be looking for. And then you also see more of an extra thickness where there's less separation, but still strong thickness in the E dot, all really through the pluribus. And the values are a little more muted for this one. In terms of some of the errors though, people pay a lot more for anything that's like a wheat penny versus a memorial one when there is the error, and in this case, a straight clip most likely means that it was on the edge of a sheet that the planchets are punched out of when they're producing them. So it's a straight clip, and then maybe it's pretty reasonable that once you have a straight clip, it's more likely to then feed into the chamber wrong. So that's what happened, and it was struck about 10% off center. But this one sold for 240 bucks. I feel like that's actually a reasonable price. People pay up for the wheat penny errors, so that's one to look for. This one also really interesting. America does strike coins for a lot of other countries, and it certainly did back then. So this one was for a Honduras 1 centavo planchet, but presumably wasn't caught and probably slipped out of the mint and was shortly caught thereafter because it didn't circulate. But there's a little bit of weakness all in the back, so it feels like an authentic clip blanchet. It's not like somebody just shaved down the edges. And obviously the L, and it's clearly a smaller planchet. This one sold for $660, so a nice wrong planchet error. And then there's also this one, which was really neat, double struck and rotated in collar, so you can see the outline of a previous iteration of Lincoln's head underneath, and then it receives a strike again. There's sort of his back shoulder, it looks like. And this one only sold for $240. So again, this one circulated. You can always look at coins closely because this clearly wasn't caught. Maybe somebody just thought that it was a little damaged or something, but no, this was identified as having been double struck because you can see the outline. A lot of the lettering's distorted, especially up there in the We Trust. This one sold for $240. And then there's lastly coin, which was struck actually on a dime planchet. So people paid up a lot more for that. It's always interesting when it's struck on, this should have been a Roosevelt's 90% silver dime. It's on a silver planchet instead, $2,300, and in an ANAX holder. Just another interesting coin and fun that, there's all sorts of different things that these coins have been struck on, whether it's the Honduras 1 centavo, the dime, or receives 2 strikes, or it's on a straight clip, a lot of error things, and combined with the varieties makes for a very interesting date to make sure to know everything about. So hopefully I was able to be helpful here, and good luck finding this stuff in the future. Thanks for watching the video. I'd encourage you to like the video, comment, and make sure to subscribe to my channel. And I also have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and some other social media platforms. You can also go to my main channel website, treasuretownYT.com, to learn more about the channel and sort of stay in contact. I also will eventually host all of these videos on coinsmetalscards.com, which will be both news, marketplace, and coin information. I do have the goal of eventually getting pretty much every US coin, date, mint mark, denomination on the channel with a similar video to the one that you just watched, and that will likely all be hosted there. And then I also have treasuretowncoins.com, which is sort of my coin dealing wing, coin dealing only entity that is a little bit less focused on content production. So thank you so much, and I'll look forward to seeing you on some of my other videos. I also have videos that are not just the date, mint mark, denomination recap in this format, so you can check some of those out, and I'll have fun seeing you there.